Is the Dignity Act a true shot at relief or just another empty promise that lands in shredder? Let's find out. Welcome to Immigration Talk Show. I'm Rajni Bharara, your host, and I have with me top US immigration attorney Jon Wasden. And today we are going to talk about Dignity Act 2025. The Dignity Act decoded, immigration reform, or political theater. But before I ask my very first question to Jon, let me read out this very important disclaimer. By watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not legal advice. Use of information is at your own risk. After this important disclaimer, welcome, Jon. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Jon, for those who don't know and who haven't followed, what is the Dignity Act of 2025 in a nutshell?
So the Dignity Act is a bipartisan bill that's been submitted to the House of Representatives, and it has three major divisions or sections. The part one is a very beefed up spending package for border security. That goes for maintaining the southern border and making sure that people aren't coming in, as well as enhanced ports of entry scrutiny there as well. The second provision is addressing the elephant in the room, which is the vast number of people that are here and undocumented and have been here for a very long time, and who have been matriculated into U.S. society and the economy, but are kind of in the shadows. And there's a provision in there that would allow them to move towards getting legal status and being able to stay in the U.S., get documentation, get green card, and build a path towards citizenship in the U.S. And then the third part, which I think your listeners or your viewers are probably most interested in and most impacted by, is some significant changes to the employment and family immigration for immigrant visa issuance. And it also has some different rules that are being created for F1s and OPT and O1s.
Okay, wow. Thank you for the answer, Jon. But Jon, I mean, as for the current government, there are millions and millions of people who are undocumented. I mean, the immigrants who are undocumented. So how will USCIS even process this? I mean, could this backfire and delay other cases like family or employment petitions?
It's a great question, because every time we are promised efficiencies in the system, those efficiencies never come to fruition. So I imagine with the increased work volume, they will have much higher fees, and some of these fees are built into the Dignity Act. And there's going to be a large expansion of workforce, hopefully at USCIS, but it just really remains to be seen how they will actually deal with the influx of new applications. On the employment-based side, it's a little different, where there's a provision creating premium processing for people whose I-130s have been pending for over 10 years. And you can pay $10,000 to expedite your green card. I think that will definitely create some definitely much needed speed. And that will, because it's on a premium processing clock, will be very quick.
Okay, so can you also clarify the difference between legal status and a green card and citizenship for the ones who don't know?
So the green card is the immigrant visa or the permanent residency. It just allows you to live in the U.S. for as long as you want, indefinitely, as long as you're not absent for more than 5 years. The citizenship, once you have that, you are a U.S. citizen and you have all the rights and protections of a U.S. citizen, and it can't be taken away from you unless you had some criminal actions that weren't disclosed during the naturalization process. But once you're naturalized as a U.S. citizen, you, for the most part, are going to have that protection for the rest of your life.
Thank you so much for the answer, Jon. Also, as an immigration attorney, do you think that this act is going to protect people from deportation permanently?
So like anything, it's an application process. There's always going to be disqualifiers for certain types of behavior or actions in the past that will be, adhered to. So I don't think it's going to end deportation permanently for people. What it does say is that, they look back in time 7 years and say you have to have been here for 7 years in order to qualify for these programs. So the number of people that will be impacted are going to be those that have been here for a long time, and it won't be those folks that are just coming across the border more recently.
Okay. I was reading this online and I saw somebody writing, actually people are actually calling it, some people are calling it modern day slavery and some people are calling it a tax trap. So why do you think people are, naming this act this?
Well, it does have a lot of price gouging provisions in it. There are a lot of very steep, expensive fees and penalties that people have to pay. And for those that are waiting 10 years or more for their green card, that $10,000 premium processing tag isn't cheap. So I very much sympathize with those people that say that this is, something that's just gouging the immigrant community, because in a lot of ways it is.
John, also, what is exactly happening? Because I have so many questions. So, what I wanted to ask is right now, if you have committed a crime, you are directly going to be deported without any ifs and buts, right? Right. But under this act, if you commit a crime and if you pay fine, then, you won't be deported because you have paid the fine and you are holding accountability, or you're being accountable by paying that fine. So how does this work? Because right now you are directly being deported. I mean, even if people are willing to pay fine, no ifs and no buts and no questions, you will directly be deported. But under this act, if you pay fine, then you will be released. So how does this work?
So there are certain crimes that will not be included in this.
Okay.
Really, the crimes that we're talking about are low-level things. But something that would have gotten you deported if you, say, held a green card already and you committed certain crimes involving moral turpitude, aggravated felonies, things like that will still be a problem for you. You're not going to be able to overcome. But for the more minor offenses, those are the things that the fine will be applicable to.
Oh, okay, okay. But right now, I think even the minor crimes or the minor mistakes of yours can lead you to deportation, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, as we've seen in the Trump administration, their attempts to, deport anybody that has any type of adverse interaction with law enforcement. We saw that with the F1s not too long ago, where they tried to strip away their status and encourage self-deportation of anybody that had ever been questioned by the police in connection with an offense. So they are definitely cracking down. You see it also at ports of entry and also at the consulates. If you've had any type of criminal allegation or criminal conviction, they are really, really thoroughly going into that in your interviews and your inspections. So I think that's consistent with, the Trump administration overall.
Okay. Thank you again for answering the question, John. I see people joining us, and I also see a comment posted by one of our viewer here, Adam Shaw. And let me take Adam's question. Hi, Adam. Welcome to Immigration Talk Show. What he wants to know is if it's not fair if they give citizenship to illegal immigrants faster than legal immigrants who are following all the rules. What do you have to say, John, about this?
So part of the bill is that they're increasing the per country cap. And the per country cap has been, to me, one of the most aggravating things in the immigration process. So they're going from a 7% limit to a 15% limit, which should alleviate a lot of that, backlog and pressure over time. And it will make available a lot more green cards and immigration opportunities for the people that have been long delayed because of the per country limit. But, as a general rule, yeah, I agree that there needs to be some prioritization. We don't really know how this is going to work out in the final version of the act, or how it's going to be implemented by agency regulations. The important thing to remember is this is just the first opening act of this bill. Once it goes into committee and debate, makes it to the floor, back and forth between the House and the Senate, it could be a radically different bill. One provision in particular jumped out at me as I was reading this, which is applicable to F1s on OPT. So it says that F1s on OPT will be dual intent. All F1s will be dual intent visas. And that if you're on OPT, that you will now pay Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security tax, which is new. Why that's important is because what's going on regulatorily now is the Trump administration is trying to kill OPT. And if they're codifying OPT in the statute, that's obviously going to create a tension. So the political parties have a lot of problems, and a lot of the issues are going to have to hash out with this bill and the current provisions of this bill as they lay. And how it ends up in its final form, if we even get to a final form, it still remains to be seen. So I wouldn't get too upset about any of the provisions just yet. It's really just, an opening salvo and a first draft of what the bill could look like.
I mean, we thought the same way about one big, beautiful bill too, right? But then it has been passed and it's now become a law. So do you think there's also a possibility of this becoming, this getting passed and becoming a law?
I think the fact that it has pretty bipartisan support and backing will help it for sure. But I look at the MAGA wing of the party. I know that the MAGA wing of the Republican Party will not be happy about many of these provisions, if not most of these provisions. The only part that they'll like is the increased spending on border security. So the rest of this is really going to be something that has to be negotiated with the White House and with the right wing of the Republican Party.
Okay. John, since you mentioned OPT and, with whatever that's happening around OPT, do you think that maybe there's a possibility of OPT being completely terminated? As an attorney, what do you think?
Well, that's definitely what the Trump administration has said they want to do. And the incoming secretary of USCIS, or director of USCIS, has said that that's a priority of his. I think they have some significant obstacles in their way to eliminating OPT legally. One is there's a significant reliance interest for anybody that has come into the U.S. on an F1 visa, and with the expectation of working in the U.S. labor market to get experience before leaving. I think legally it will be difficult to take away their opportunity for OPT in the future. I think there are also reliance interest in certain companies that have historically relied on OPT workers for their projects. And then there's also the entire regulatory structure really anticipates that you will come here on F1, you'll do OPT, and then you'll have that time between graduation to when you can get selected in the H-1B lottery. And the only way you can stay in the country is on OPT. And the whole system is designed around OPT at this point. So it's going to be very difficult for them to check all of the boxes that they're required to go through in the regulatory process and make everything come out right.
Okay. Thank you so much, John, for your great answers. And guys, if you're enjoying this conversation, make sure to like this video, share this video with anyone who you think will be benefited from this information. And also don't forget to subscribe to Immigration Talk Show. And also, if you have any questions, make sure to post them in the comment section. John is only here for 20 minutes. So we will try to take as many questions as much as we can, and we'll ask them from John. John, coming back to Dignity Act, do you think that this system, even financially viable for immigrants working lower wage jobs?
Maybe if Trump inflates the dollar enough, it will be. But I think for people working the lower wage jobs, it's going to be very, very steep. I mean, we're looking at some of these things are $7,000 plus. I think that's going to be cost prohibitive for a lot of people, or they'll go into severe debt to finance it. So, it, like a lot of these things, it remains to be seen if these are the final numbers, or if they'll actually work out in this form. But it's definitely going to be tough.
But not trying to make this session political, but the elections are soon coming up, in November. So because of those elections, now I see that people's opinion are changing about immigration. Earlier, the people who were completely supporting the right wing and were up for deportation and up for visa revocation, now they have become completely against it, and now they are also raising their voices. All the right wing, I would say, influencers have suddenly become left wing, as I can see on social media these days. So what do you think? Do you think this coming up, the elections that are going to come up soon in November, that will also influence the immigration related decisions?
I think people who are in purple districts are going to have to walk a very fine line on immigration. The one thing that seems clear across the country, in red and blue states both, is that the people that we rely on to do farm work, hotel work, landscaping work, all of these things that we don't really think about, don't really see on a daily basis, but rely on, those workers are getting hit very hard by these deportations and these enforcement actions. So it's something that resonates with the American people. When you got farmers and who are very hardcore Trump supporters saying this is not what we signed up for, we don't want this, we need change, then I think you're going to see a softening on the administration's overall immigration policies eventually, or we will see them get voted out of office in the House and the Senate if things keep going the way they're going.
Yeah, that can be seen on social media too. Thank you so much again for answering this question, John. I think Adam is back, and Adam has a second question. He says, international students pay out of state tuition fees. If OPT and STEM OPT are removed, the number of international students will decrease by 75%. I think this is a statement that he's making. What do you think? Do you think that's what's going to happen?
Yeah. A huge problem if we eliminate the foreign students. It's a huge problem financially for U.S. universities and colleges. It's a bigger problem for the U.S. in terms of its technological edge. We've really been relying on foreign students to carry the weight because there just aren't enough U.S. students getting degrees in things that matter in the sciences and the STEM fields. The one thing that is encouraging about this bill is the change to the O1 visa for extraordinary ability. What the language says is that you will be presumptively eligible for that visa category if you have a PhD. I think that will probably incentivize a lot of people to go the extra mile to go into a PhD and into the research fields just to have that O1. And I think that will be a good thing. But again, if they make the process so hostile at the beginning, it'll discourage those that would have originally gone for a PhD in the future, and it will discourage them from sticking around if they're already here. So there has to be some changes to the way we treat the foreign student community, because if we keep treating them the way we have, they'll all leave en masse, and we will be in a dire problem in the U.S.
Okay. John, I've also gathered some viewer question from social media, so which I would like to ask from you. Let me read out this. These are like situations, and then the viewers have posted their question. So one viewer says, my friend made a false claim on a DL and job years ago. No criminal record. Would this bill help him?
So a false claim if they made a claim to citizenship on any type of government application, that's going to be a huge problem, and that's not going to be something that is going to be waivable, I don't believe. So it would just depends on what the nature of that false statement is.
Okay. And the second question that I have from the viewer is, if someone was on TPS but it ended, could they still qualify under this program?
So in order to qualify for the DREAM Act provisions, you had to have been in the country, I think, before 2021.
Okay. I think Swapna has posted a question on LinkedIn, and she wants to know, will employers be required to verify participation in the Dignity program?
Yeah, so E-Verify is going to be 100% mandatory across the board, and that will be a big feature of the bill.
Okay. So, John, since you mentioned E-Verify, the bill mandates, I mean, nationwide E-Verify, right? So how does that affect undocumented workers?
Well, that's the rub, right? So if the bill in its current form has these very high financial penalties for people that have been here that they're trying to make documented. If they can't afford those penalties, all these provisions don't really matter. You know, you're still going to have a shadow economy. You're still going to have a bunch of people working behind the scenes. So they really do have to negotiate some things on this bill to make it more realistic if they're trying to help that population of people.
Okay. Okay. Swapna, I hope you have got your answer. Thank you so much for your question. John, I know you are on a time constraint. How many more questions can we take?
We can take one more.
Okay. So one last question before we wrap up the session. So what advice do you have for DACA recipients or undocumented immigrants who are watching this session?
So right now, I would say keep your eyes on the news, keep your eyes on what's happening in the Congress with the bill. You know, contact your representatives that are in your area. Have your family members that are citizens and permanent residents contact their representatives. Make as much noise as you can about the provisions that are good and also bad, and highlight those problems as much as you can for yourself and for your relative population.
That's not just a perfect advice, but that's a perfect immigration attorney advice. Thank you so much, John, for being here.
I thank you. You take care.
You too. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, viewers, for joining us on Immigration Talk Show. I hope you enjoyed this session. We are going to do a detailed session on this topic with maybe John very soon. But because John was on a time constraint, so we tried to cover as much as we can, but we are very soon going to come up with another session with him talking about each and every aspect about Dignity Act. For now, I'll have to take your leave. I hope you enjoyed this session. If you did, make sure to like this video, share this video with anyone who you think can benefit from this information. And also, don't forget to subscribe to Immigration Talk Show. I'm your host, Rajni Parara, signing off. Take care and bye.